Welcome back, America. It's my privilege to have my brother, Dan Bongino, on the show, and he's got a fantastic radio show and podcast, The Dan Bongino Show, former Secret Service agent. And Dan, that's why I need you here to help America walk through this. The bottom line is you had a gunman on a roof in plain view. How the hell do you get a gunman on the roof on plain view when our Secret Service is supposed to be there and was there with all these failures and so forth? What do you make of this?
Mark, we have one job, and I say we because I was there 12 years. I mean, this is a brotherhood over there. We're very proud of what we did. I'm very proud of what I did. However, we have one job, and the job is you keep your protectee alive no matter what. Even if you get hurt or killed in the process, you keep the protectee alive. Now, there's an expression a friend said to me once in the Secret Service that an uneventful failure is never a success. We failed. The fact that Donald Trump lived and the assassin failed, and on his end at least, it was uneventful because he didn't get his goal accomplished, does not mean this was a success. It was a catastrophic security failure. Now, there are some significant questions given my over a decade of experience with both Clinton, Obama, and Bush. So I've worked for, Democrat and Republican administrations, and as a lead advance agent for both Bush and Obama, I have some significant questions here. And I think the congressional committees in the FBI investigation needs to be focused on this first, Mark. There are 1,000 things we can talk about: recruiting, communications, line of sight issues, aerial surveillance, and if you want to, we'll get to a touch on some other stuff. But this is the primary question everybody needs to focus on. So congressional leaders out there, focus, listen, horse blinkers on right now, okay? Why was Donald Trump on the X? The X is where the protectee stands, Mark, or is seated in a limo or in a helicopter or in a plane. Why was he out there? Mark, there is a room at every single site for a protectee we do. It's called the holding room. Now, Mark, you're a very smart guy. We've been friends for a long time. You're a lawyer. You're never going to guess why we call it the holding room. We call it the holding room, you ready? Because that's where we hold the protectee if something's not right. Why did they not utilize the holding room? There has been no substantive explanation as to why in hell Donald Trump was brought out onto the X on stage to get fired upon when we knew there was a threat out there, according to my sources, at about 5 to 5:01 p.m. Eastern time. Well, that's a significant time, Mark, because Donald Trump didn't get on stage till after 6 p.m. So for an hour, you've got an open threat out there, and you walk Donald Trump out exposed out there to get shot in the head? I mean, in my 12 years of experience, I've never seen such an apocalyptic failure. And Mark, one last thing on this. No one's going to tell me, oh, you speak with forked tongue, Dan. You would have, done different. Listen, I've been in situations not as catastrophic as this one, where there was a security threat in Indonesia, where I was the lead advance, and elsewhere, where I was actively communicating with supervisors on what we were going to have to do to delay the president's arrival, because we did have an open threat. I don't have time to describe what it was, but we figured it out, and then we brought him in. This is just unforgivable, Mark. There's no real explanation as to why that would happen.
Oh, you're 100% right, Dan. And then I think one of the things that sticks in my mind is you literally had people in the audience pointing to the roof. You had people talking, there's a guy with a gun. You had people 30 minutes before talking about a guy roaming around. And apparently the Secret Service did have a beat on this guy, but nothing was done. Nothing was done. How do you explain that, or is it inexplicable?
Well, I think it's the first time I've said this on Fox, and I mentioned it on my show. There's two things here. How did we not spot the threat on the roof is your question. It's a good one. It's a common sense one. You're thinking, like a lawyer, but you're thinking primarily like a guy who really cares about his country. Number one, there's what's called a PI team with the Secret Service at every site, Mark. It's a protective intelligence team. They also function as a CS response team, counter sniper response team. What does that mean? Often at sites, the counter snipers, the Secret Service personnel that have spotters on the roof, will see a threat. There may be someone who opens a window at a site. Now, you're not going to shoot the window if there's not a threat, so you have the CS response team, that protective intelligence element, go there and say, hey, listen, it's just a kid who was trying to get some air or whatever, so we don't, start randomly shooting people. What happened with the PI team? How did the protective intelligence team, one, not catch the guy going up on the roof? And second, when he was up on the roof, why didn't they pull Donald Trump off the X? Why wasn't that relayed back? Said, get Donald Trump behind the armor. I don't understand. And where was the aerial surveillance? You had no drone? Mark, I go to Amazon for $40 and get myself a drone. I'm volunteering to buy it for the Secret Service right now. Drone would have caught the guy right away like that. They didn't have it. The other guy had a drone, the bad guy, not the $6 trillion United States government.
Dan Bongino, when we return, I'm very concerned about this director of the Secret Service. Number one, reports have it that she got the job because of Joe Biden's office. Number two, she's not forthcoming. The slope on the roof, they're blaming local cops. They have like 15 cops on this local police force. It's a township of 6,000 people. You're telling me the United States Secret Service is relying on traffic cops to protect the President of the United States? I'm not buying this BS for 2 seconds. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Fox News Live. I'm John Scott in New York. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump hitting the campaign trail in Michigan tonight for the first time since narrowly surviving an assassination attempt in Pennsylvania last week. Tonight's rally also marking his first with his newly minted running mate, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance. Trump quickly resumed attacks on President Biden, despite earlier saying he wanted to serve as a unifier. Meantime, President Biden continues to recover from COVID at his Delaware home amid mounting pressure to abandon his re-election effort. At least 36 congressional Democrats are now urging him to step aside. While the Biden campaign insists he is staying in the race, his family reportedly is discussing what an exit might look like. If he does withdraw, many Democrats believe the party will back Vice President Kamala Harris as the nominee. I'm John Scott. Now, back to Life, Liberty, and Liberty.
Welcome back, America. We're here with our friend Dan Bongino, former Secret Service agent, radio host extraordinaire, that's for sure, podcaster, and great American. Dan Bongino, the Secret Service director. I mean, look, we've had other police events, horrendous events. We have the government gets out front, the cops get out front. We'll brief you. We'll be back in 2 hours. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll be back. What is her deal? Why is she running around like she has something to hide? Does she have something to hide?
She does, Mark. She is grotesquely incompetent. She is hiding a massive recruiting failure. And let me just say in advance, Mark, hundreds, and I mean hundreds of people, former active agents, Secret Service managers, have reached out to me thanking me for exposing the failures. You know why, Mark? For decades. You can go back and look at a piece, an article I gave an interview in 2013 in the Washingtonian where I exposed these problems. 2013. That's a decade ago. Agents, where did I get that information? One, from my own experience, and other agents who have been screaming. We have a managerial failure at the United States Secret Service, and someone's going to die. And let me tell you something I'm going to say on your show. I am sadly, tragically confident if we do not change the Secret Service director and other managers there as well, there will be another incident, Mark. It is not even a question of if. It is it's only an issue of when. Someone sent me a text message last night. Let's just say a friend who is in the know at the entity, that they have BQA'd. That stands for better qualified applicant, meaning they're flushing people out of the recruiting pipeline with special forces backgrounds because of DEI type initiatives in favor of recent college grads with no work experience. Can you imagine? And think about what I just told you, Mark. Imagine the legal profession. You have like F. Lee Bailey getting BQA'd, meaning disqualified because there was a better qualified applicant for a dude out of law school. That is what's happening with the Secret Service. And Mark, this is a bipartisan issue, my brother. The President of the United States, in case the Democrats out there don't know, is a Democrat. He has Secret Service protection. I don't want to see anything happen to Joe Biden. I don't want to see anything happen to Jill Biden. Barack Obama has a protective detail. That's not what we do. I protected Barack Obama. I don't like Barack Obama's politics, but I did it proudly. You're not interested in cleaning this mess up? You're going to put unqualified people rather than special forces folks around the president because of some quota initiative? Are you insane? Someone is going to get killed. Mark, the protectee, Donald Trump and Joe Biden, their height and weight don't change. How the hell do you have different physical fitness standards for men and women? They've got to lift the same body if something happens. Please explain to me in common sense terms why women have a different physical fitness standard than men when the protectee, Donald Trump, is the same height and weight. You can't without making an utter buffoon out of yourself. This is shameful.
You know, Dan Bongino, I'm getting a little tired of the criticism you and I and others take when we point out that they've been successful with DEI. Why don't they take credit for DEI? And when we point out, well, wait a minute, you have DEI hires here, you have DEI problems here, your executive orders, your fiat, your dictates, where merit is secondary, if at all, on the list when you're reviewing candidates for anything, suddenly you're a racist. Excuse me, is DEI racist? Well, then why are you calling us racists? You're the one pushing DEI. We're the ones pushing merit in a colorblind society. And, you know, you look at it here, when it comes to the Secret Service, when it comes to the FBI, when it comes to this poison, taking merit out of the system, a colorblind society out of the system, not recognizing the truth about physical, biological features, is destroying professions, and as you point out, can and will get somebody killed at some point. So why is it so controversial to point it out if they're promoting it?
Mark, it's not. The media has really contributed to this national security threat we have right now with Secret Service protectees, by the way, including Joe Biden, in actual danger. I mean, what do we need to see before this stops? I mean, does the public understand we came within possibly a couple of millimeters of having a former president's head explode on live television? Do you understand what that would have looked like? It's bad enough what happened. Mark, this is, and to the media folks out there who said, Daniel Larkin at NBC wrote an article about how I was stoking a conspiracy theory when I said that Donald Trump's life was in danger a year ago because Secret Service sources were feeding it to me. They should be ashamed of themselves. If they would have exposed the security failures instead of attacking me because I'm a conservative, maybe that wouldn't have happened and we'd be having a different conversation right now.
And let us not forget, this is the same Department of Homeland Security, the same management at the Secret Service, the same President of the United States who would not give Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Secret Service protection, even though his father and his uncle were assassinated. He only did it the day after the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. This is contemptible. Dan Bongino, keep at it, baby. You're the best. God bless you, my friend.
Always an honor, my brother. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
We'll be right back.